Hello, and welcome to the 2025-2026 Program Monitoring Validation Training for Title I Part C Program Evaluation. Legal disclaimer. This presentation is intended solely to provide general information and guidance to the Texas LEAs, ESC, and nonprofit subgrantees and participating private schools receiving equitable services. The content in this presentation reflects the Texas Education Agency's current understanding of statute and applicable federal guidance. The content of this presentation is subject to change as a result of future guidance and/or other updates provided by federal agencies with regulatory oversight of these programs. This presentation does not constitute legal advice, and entities are therefore advised to seek legal counsel regarding the information and guidance provided in this presentation before acting upon the information provided. Artificial Intelligence Disclaimer. Recording and/or use of artificial intelligence. The Texas Education Agency does not permit third-party recording or the use of artificial intelligence summary services during its grants-related trainings. Attendees of TEA's grants-related trainings may not use AI services, language models, applications, interfaces, or assistance to attend, review, or record the trainings. TEA further prohibits any person or entity from using the information included in its grants-related trainings to train AI technologies. Any attendees of TEA's grant-related trainings who violate this prohibition may be removed from the trainings and may be barred from attending future grants-related trainings. The Federal Program Compliance Division Program Monitoring Validation documents for Title I Part C can be found in the ESSA Program Monitoring Validations webpage. These resources include the guidance documents for each Program Monitoring Validation Title I Part C requirement, as well as training slides and training videos. An additional resource for Program Monitoring Validation for Title I Part C is your Education Service Center, or ESC. ESC support includes complimentary technical assistance and training, which are available from each regional ESC. The ESC contacts link to the Texas Migrant Education Portal, or TMIP, is located under the contact information found on the right side of the Title I Part C webpage. Documentation requested. Documenting overall compliance for a program requirement may require several forms of documentation to be maintained locally and available upon request by TEA and/or an auditor. To ensure overall compliance with program requirements, LEAs should refer to the program guide and/or other program-related resources that reference the multiple forms of documentation required to be maintained locally. The documentation requested for submission during the validation process may not include all forms of documentation that are required to be maintained locally. Now, let's talk specifically about the requirement for documentation for the Title I Part C Migrant Education Program Evaluation. According to ESCA as amended by ESSA, Section 1304 B1 and B2, each such application shall include a description of how in planning, implementing, and evaluating programs and projects assisted under this part, the state and its local operating agencies will ensure that the unique educational needs of migratory children, including preschool migratory children and migratory children who have dropped out of school, are identified and addressed through the full range of services that are available for migratory children from appropriate local, state, and federal education programs. Joint planning among local, state, and federal educational programs serving migratory children, including language instruction educational programs under Part A of Title III, the integration of services available under this part with services provided by those other programs and measurable program objectives and outcomes, a description of the steps the state is taking to provide all migratory students with the opportunity to meet the same challenging state academic standards that all children are expected to meet. In addition, according to Section 1304C 4 through 5, each such application shall also include assurances that in planning and carrying out such programs and projects, there has been and will be adequate provisions for addressing the unmet education needs of preschool migratory children and migratory children who have dropped out of school. The effectiveness of such programs and projects will be determined where feasible using the same approaches and standards that will be used to assess the performance of students, schools, and local education agencies under Part A. According to sections 1306 A1, C, and D, Comprehensive Plan, in general, each state that receives assistance under this part shall ensure that the state and its local operating agencies identify and address the unique educational needs of migratory children in accordance with a comprehensive state plan that provides that migratory children will have an opportunity to meet the same challenging state academic standards that all children are expected to meet, and specifies measurable program goals and outcomes. The required documentation 1.1 for the program evaluation is the District Improvement Plan MEP section. The acceptable documentation is District Improvement Plan pages addressing additional services offered to migratory students based on the LEA MEP evaluation. Again, the documentation required for the MEP program evaluation is the District Improvement Plan pages addressing additional services offered to the migratory students based on the LEA MEP evaluation. Some issues that may result in an improvement needed status could include auditable documentation requested was not submitted. Documentation submitted does not reference the additional services offered to migratory students based on the LEA MEP evaluation, or documentation submitted was not for activities that took place during the prior school year. The required documentation 1.2 for the program evaluation requirement is services identified and offered. The acceptable documentation is a list of improved services offered to the migratory students, or other documentation showing how the results were used to improve services to migratory students. Again, the documentation required for item 1.2 is the list of improved services offered to migratory students, or other documentation showing how the results were used to improve services to migratory students. Some issues that may result in an improvement needed status for this requirement could include auditable documentation requested was not submitted. Documentation submitted does not reference improved services offered to migratory students, or documentation submitted was not for activities that took place in the prior year. If documentation of meetings is to be provided for any requirement, please consider the following. The standard meeting documentation that an LEA should maintain locally includes meeting agendas, meeting notes, or minutes and sign-in sheets. Documentation 1.3 for the program evaluation requirement includes evaluation planning meeting notes. The acceptable documentation includes a maximum of 2 samples of evaluation planning meeting notes. Again, the documentation required to support item 1.3 of the program evaluation is a maximum of 2 samples of evaluation planning meeting notes. Issues that may result in improvement needed status include auditable documentation requested was not submitted, documentation submitted did not address the evaluation planning meetings, or documentation submitted was not for activities that took place in the prior year. Resources and support. These resources are available for LEAs to review prior to submitting documentation for selected PMV requirements. Please take advantage of these documents to ensure that the district is informed of the overall process for program monitoring validations and all program-specific resources. These are the requirements for the Title I Part C Migrant Education Program as it relates to the Title I Part C program evaluation. We hope that you have found it helpful. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Here is our contact information. Thank you.